So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the 22 Panels Comic Strip Book Club. That for those handful of people, hi Mom, hi John, who actually listen to most things. It seems like we've been gone for a long time, but we recorded a Charles Schultz episode in October, but it was while we were doing all of the Santos Sisters stuff, and the recording got lost in the shuffle. Um, So we're calling it the Great Lost Charles Schultz episode, and it probably is lost, though if Tyler or I ever find it, we will put it up. And since Charlie Brown and specifically Linus go so well with Halloween, we'll try again this October. But but today we're gonna talk Frank King and Gasoline Alley. And as always, I'm gonna kick it to you guys first because I like to hear your thoughts. So whoever
Um,
wants to jump in.
Hi, this is Carl. Yeah,
Yeah, Carl, it was
it was
your
my
your
suggestion, so I
baby.
figured
Yeah, there we go.
I should jump in first. Gasoline Alley was something that I came into kind of late. Like I kept hearing about how great it is, how great it is, how great it is over the years, and my local comic book shop had those drawn and quarterly collections that were literally getting dusty on the shelf. So on a whim, a couple years ago, I bought the first one they had, which was actually volume two, and picked it up. And I eventually picked up all the collections that this shop had and ordered a bunch from Drawn Quarterly. I love it. It is a comic that I quickly learned to enjoy just because of the simplicity that this was comic book stories that continued from over 100 years ago that still has some modern resonance that I enjoyed. I love the fact that
It's actually still running even.
it's still running.
Yeah.
The longest running comic strip, I think, in American history.
I think it's
Yes,
2029 when it'll take that
Yeah,
title
it's
because
the longest
Katzenjammer
currently
King.
running.
Yeah,
longest currently
Katzenjammer
running.
King
So
Yeah,
Cats and Jammer
is
Kids was longer.
right.
yeah. Um, I love the fact that the characters age in real time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm sure I had other thoughts, but they just went right out of my head. I'm blaming the flu on that one.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's both a strip about. I mean, I have not read as much probably as you, Carl,
Mhm.
but what I've enjoyed from what I have read is the dailies present life day to day with the characters, but then the Sundays will often be more fanciful. It will be the little kids having dreams or having kind of magical adventures in their minds. Or they'll just be like celebrations of nature or just the neighborhood, and they'll be more visually driven, while the day to day is literally just you watch the characters grow up or get older.
Mhm.
And there's kind of these two tracks of like this kind of the working day, real world, and this sort of like uh, fanciful weekend adventures.
And
Um, it's very charming.
I think all the characters are also the majority of the characters. I think Walt in the current comic. I don't know how often he appears in the current comics, but I think he's still around.
Yeah, 115, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, he is a widower now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
His I think if I remember correctly, his wife died at the age of 104 or
Yeah.
something.
Right.
He
And
started
it's,
as a
Jesus is
bachelor and now
90
he's a
something.
bachelor again.
and I think they've gone through at least three or four generations over the 100 or so years. I mean, I've only really read a lot of the Drawn and Quarterly Frank King stuff, so I haven't really read after him.
Yeah, I've peeked at it, but I've not followed it. I know there's a
Mhm.
collection of the work from the 60s, which was right
Mhm.
when Frank King retired. But I have to say, for the most part, I'm I kind of like to stick to the original artists, even though
Yeah,
I mean the new folks seem really talented and that's all fine. But I mean it came from the mind of Frank King and he shepherded through for at least 30 years. I think he gave up the Sundays a little sooner, but he set the
yes, he did
everyone
give up
followed.
I think he gave up the Sundays in the early 50s. And I think I'm trying to remember who we were talking about. Was it Kniff?
Yeah.
Oh, was it Kniff or was it the other one?
Roy Crane.
Roy Crane, I think it might have been, where his adventures, again, the dailies was one adventure and the Sundays was a different adventure.
That was Roy Crane.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Sundays collections. I mean, as an introduction to Frank King, these small drawn and quarterly books, which each collects 2 years, are great. Again, it's like the daily thing. But if you see the Sunday collections, oh wow, they are amazing,
Yeah,
huge. I mean, I've got one behind me that Drawn and Quarterly did that Chris Ware designed, and
I think it's a Sunday Press book, actually.
Yeah, it's
Sunday Press, or is it co-production?
I believe it is Sunday Press.
Okay, yeah,
but it's a huge book to reproduce the Sundays in what it, the size that it originally came out in. And yeah, it was a lot more colorful, a lot more experimental, sometimes playing around with the ideas of like it's one illustration broken up into 8, 9, 10 panels, almost like I remember there's this one about Walt and Skeezix walking on the beach, and it traces them as they walk around the beach. Like basically the same thing that Family Circus did many years later. Frank King first.
Yes, and even kind of more interesting, like because you read it narratively, like a comic strip panel to panel, unlike the Family Circus where it kind of goes in circles or however the characters are wandering. The Gasoline Alley pages read sequentially in panels. It's very clever. You can see why Chris Ware was really attracted to this comic, because it has his love of like everyday moment to moment life, but he also will sometimes have these more playful layouts and kind of experimental storytelling devices. It's all very gentle. It's a very gentle strip, but it's super charming. The drawing is so relaxed and comfortable and feels lived in, and the character gestures are great. It's very when I was rereading it over the last 2 weeks, the first volume, it's very the thing that popped in my brain was it's Car Talk, the old radio show.
Yeah.
That's something that was in the introduction to the first volume,
which I skipped over.
No, I read it this morning just because I always feel like I should read it at some point.
Yeah, it's funny that I was like, oh, it's Car Talk, and you kind of hear the voices in your head. And again, as the volumes go on, especially the first 2 volumes, with Skeezix being left on Walt's step, and it goes into like the second volume goes into people going, oh no, who is the person that left the baby on the step, and it becomes a whole drama. And again, it's very slice of life drama. I love it.
Yeah.
And if I understand correctly, I don't know how true this is, that one of the reasons Drawn and Quarterly was able to put out these books was, I think it was Joe Matt, maybe Seth, maybe Chris Ware. They collected the actual newspaper strips that were able to be compiled into these books.
My memory is that Joe Matt had a lot of the originals.
Yeah.
Not originals, I'm sorry, tear sheets, not original strips, but tear strips from the comics. And that was, I think that was a big help in them doing this, because the syndicates don't have all of this material.
No.
Well, and I would be willing to bet that who's the guy who's a guy that donated a ton of stuff to the Billy Ireland.
Bill Blackbeard.
Blackbeard. Yeah. That seems to be the go-to when they're looking for missing stuff, is to reach out to the Billy Ireland and the Bill Blackbeard that is still being cataloged.
Yeah, but it's interesting looking over, revisiting this first volume. Like, I love the fact that the way it's presented, which I'm guessing a lot of it is Chris Ware, in this sort of yellow toned paper to kind of mimic old paper. but you can see some of the strips. They reproduced them as best they could because a lot of them are aging, and you can see the aging even in the reproductions.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of variation in the quality, and at first I wasn't quite sure. Uh, early on and I assume in the first volume as well. All I really looked at is the second volume. The single panels, and in those you really get to see they're a little larger, so you can really enjoy that artwork. And I was going back and forth and was like, well, was he in a hurry here? Uh, these lines seem very thin on some of the other ones, but again, I came to realize that it's probably a reproduction issue.
Mhm.
Yeah, but also looking at it, I love the fact that almost like Schultz, who came later, looking at what Frank King chooses to draw and what he chooses not to draw. Like, even though it's an alley, you might only see one house and a fence. And his use of space in that way, I think is really, it's very simplistic, but it works amazingly.
Yeah, it's all very believable. It's
Yeah.
not you really get pulled in and you accept it. It doesn't feel like to me it didn't feel like shortcuts. It just feels like just
This is what it is.
simplified, pared down, this is what it is. I read somewhere that this was Schultz's favorite strip, and I could totally see why. The body language of the characters is so
Mhm.
great. I mean, Schultz, I don't always think gets credit for the emotion that he brings to his characters, like in the drawing. But you totally feel these characters, and Skeezix, especially when he's a little toddler
Mhm.
waddling around, is just super charming. My heart went out for this little scribble of a character. He's not a scribble, but this doodle of a character going through these adventures. And also, it's shocking to read them in a book and watch him grow up. I mean, I haven't read all the volumes, but just he's like, oh, his language is better. His his talking is better. He's a little bit bigger. His walking is more even. It's really it's so touching.
Yeah.
I had never read Gasoline Alley until this, and it's something that I always heard about. Again, reading about Schultz, reading about other creators who always cited it, but I have never lived anywhere that carried the strip, so had never actually ventured into it. So I was really happy to get into it, and like you said, it's a slice of life. In some ways, it reminds me of King of the Hill. These guys hanging out in the
Like a
alley.
Midwestern
Yeah.
King of the Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Gasoline Alley on Go Comics?
I think only since like 2000. So like the last 24 years.
Oh, that just depresses me that when you were like, oh, yeah, since 2000, the last 24 years.
Yeah.
But that's a generation. The characters do age.
Yeah.
I did see a recent one where Skeezix, who is a child in the ones we're reading, is trying to make sure that Walt doesn't hurt himself at home because he's getting forgetful. And it's Skeezix is 100. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they stopped aging the characters for a few years. I was reading up on this. I think in the 80s they kind of just cut it out, but I think they've started aging them again.
I think
it was a very brief
I mean,
period, because I saw that too.
You can't. I guess you can't say goodbye to Walt, but it is getting a little ludicrous at this point.
I'm right now looking at Go Comics, a comic from January 21st, which is today, and there's Walt and Skeezix, very old.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say about the strip was you mentioned Kartok and King of the Hill. The strip, just for maybe everyone knows this, but I'll just say it for the listeners. So the strip started just with the guys fixing cars. That's why it's called Gasoline Alley. And then not Robert Pattinson, excuse me. Who is that? I can't remember the name.
Captain
Captain.
Yeah.
Captain Patterson. Is that right? So the head of the syndicate said, we need to get some, we need to get more family interest in this strip. Bring a kid into the comic. And Frank King was like, well, Walt is a bachelor, so he'll have to find a baby on the doorstep.
Yeah,
Well, when they brought the kid in, totally shifted the strip.
The introduction by Jeet here to this book points out that might be a case of Patterson taking credit, as apparently he was known to do.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really read the comics. They were starting to tend slightly more towards, they're more cases where his bachelorhood would come up, etc. And also that King, wrote a lot about what he knew, and he had started a family at that point. So he thinks that there's a lot of reasons why King might have introduced the character. I mean, for that matter, King's previous strip that I would love to see collected, the Bobby Make Believe. Just looking at a few of those that I've seen around are pretty cool. I mean, it's Little Nemo-esque, but it's more grounded in this, like, and it allowed him to do a different genre anytime he felt like it, because Bobby would pretend to be a pirate, Bobby would pretend to be a knight, Bobby would pretend to be a cowboy. So yeah.
Well, just to finish my thought.
Sorry.
But no, it's fair. Patterson probably was taking credit for it. I have no idea. Whoever,
I don't. Yeah.
However it came to be that he introduced the kid. And I guess you're right though, Tad, because Frank was recently a father, so maybe that did prompt it.
Like Seasick was based on his son.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So whatever it was, the decision to introduce a kid, and then that introduces time into the comic. I'm sure those guys could have talked in the alley for a century if people were still interested. But having the kid there meant now we must deal with the march of time. And for whatever reason, he decided not to keep the kid, a toddler forever. He decided to age him. And then that sort of
get married too.
Right. And they set in motion this comic that, literally took on its own life. And that's kind of fascinating because I can't think of another strip that's really committed to that. Well, for better or for worse, but this is
recently, for
70 years
for
later,
worse.
50 years later.
Doonesbury. Didn't Doonesbury age?
Doonesbury.
Sure. But in the 20s, maybe no one thought these strips were going to last.
Probably the first.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is where, I'm going to have to make certain I bring it up on the Love and Rockets podcast, because I've many times noted the aging of characters being one of the more unique aspects of Love and Rockets, and it's not completely unique. I think I'd already mentioned Doonesbury a little bit, but you definitely have, for better or for worse, and then Gasoline Alley before it, in terms of I mean, again, look, I'm looking at today's Gasoline Alley, and you've got 3 generations, all 70 and older. In the strip. And it is a shame that read from the beginning on Gasoline Alley right now at Go Comics is read from April 8th, 2001, not from way back. Because I mean, I think you've got a fascinating history that can be told. I mean, most of the stuff that I've read about it talk about how apolitical it is, and it is and it isn't. Just because I was curious, I went and read, or flipped through strips from like 1929, and they're stock crazy. They don't actually, at least I didn't see them actually mention the crash, but they're stock crazy until they're not.
Well, that's what struck me, when they're talking about homebrew, right?
Yeah.
They're always, You know, they're in
Prohibition.
Prohibition. They're talking about President Harding. You know,
Yep. You got to think. They got to think like these comics in this first volume took. I mean, it's 19, what, 21, 22,
21?
before the Great Gatsby.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the beginning of Prohibition.
Yeah.
And it's a
And it
great.
is commented on. You know, I mean, I think a really interesting history of America could be done merging, you know, history, the stuff going on with selected strips from the periods, because you know, it is absolutely, at least in what I've read, and what I've read is essentially the first year of Skeezix and selected strips from 1929 and 1941. I also didn't see any actual acknowledgement of Pearl Harbor, which kind of struck me. But what I was reading, they weren't particularly well dated, and they didn't seem to be in order, so I might not have found it either. But
I was going to say also, this is one of the first comic strips that I knew of. I've seen on these online, like there was Gasoline Alley toys, like Skeezix, little Skeezix dolls and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure I've seen Noah Van Sciver post a couple photos, or maybe some old Joe Matt social media posts. But there was also in the 30s, there was radio adaptations.
Yep.
In the 40s or 50s, I think there was 2 films based around Skeezix. So it wasn't just the comic strip. I mean, it starts as a comic strip, but it became like a multimedia
and it's
thing.
Arguably one of the first soap operas.
Yeah.
I mean, before they were really being done on radio, long before they were being done on TV.
I forget.
Again, I was going to say again with the whole, they do the whole storyline about where did Skeezix come from, who is the mother, and they go into a court case and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's interesting because it's very gentle, at least what I've read. I kind of admire it. It's not super melodramatic. There's lots of cliffhangers. You're really curious to find out how this is all going to go down, but it's very low key, and it's kind of reassuring in that way. Also, we know that Skeezix doesn't get taken away, so we know the ending. But it's subtle, but there's always a sense of like something might happen, but it never gets, at least again what I've read so far, it doesn't get overly dramatic, which I kind of appreciate that, because we're not always seeing stories told that way. There's enough tug to keep you there, like pull at the heartstring.
Right.
And I am also really kind of struck by, again, in the introduction, it talks about how it posits the idea that one of the reasons it was so underrated is it's meant to be read in big chunks at once to really get the appreciation and whatnot. And I think there's truth to that, but I think that even more true is it's meant to be read daily for big chunks, you know, because as I've read it, you know, I feel like something's missing reading strip by strip. I have trouble reading more than a month at a time, because it's like I feel like it's almost like that autobio comic where it's okay, I've got 4 panels to tell the most interesting thing in my day. So much of it isn't truly sequential day to day, other than the fact that this was today and this is tomorrow, and it becomes sequential, but having time to breathe. I mean, I would almost love to, you know, and obviously it would take forever, or you would never catch up. I would almost love to like take a period and just read it one a day as part of my daily routine to see how that feels, just because it really seems like it's designed for that. It's your daily peek in on Walt, and eventually Skeezix and whoever. It's your daily peek in on this world.
I can only assume that is how everyone was writing these. I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't count on a book contract. You couldn't count on your strip lasting for a year.
No. I mean that.
So it's gotta hit every day.
Right.
It has to give you enough of a hit.
I mean, I don't know enough about their publishing history, but I know particularly early on there would be times where a given strip would run in some papers every day and some papers every other day, and sometimes there'd be disputes or it wouldn't get distributed properly, so chunks would get missed, etc. So if you need to have read every strip, I mean, even more than early Marvel, you just couldn't count on your readers in a lot of places having the opportunity to. So if they couldn't pick up wherever it left off.
I mean, that was the thing with the back of the day. You basically have to read and just kind of somehow catch up. Just we're going, here's where we're going, catch up. I found it interesting, like when I was doing a weekly comic for the alternative newspaper out here, I was deliberately told I couldn't do a storyline. I think Noah Van Sciver was the cartoonist before me, and he tried to do a storyline in week by week by week by week, and they told him to stop because they're like, treat every comic it's like it's the reader's first one. They didn't want any sort of serialization.
I can't remember if we talked about this before. I think about it a lot, and I've mentioned it to you all before, probably. But when I often think back, what was the first Peanuts comic I read? I've been reading that as far as I can tell my entire life, but I don't know what the first one was. What hooked me on this comic? Yeah. Maybe it was in a book form already.
Right.
Maybe it was a book form already, so I just stepped in and read the strip. But
yeah.
But you have to. Each one has to function as the first comic for somebody.
Right. I almost guarantee
the rhythm of getting in that head. I mean, Carl, you're close to that, in that you've tried to like make that for people. I've never been in that situation where I've had to like create a continuum where someone could step into it at any point. And it's fascinating, but it was a very lucrative career, and I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know,
and I was going to say, and I remember, I mean, this Ghastly Alley is different in the sense that like the storylines go on for weeks, months, etc. But I remember growing up reading newspaper comics as a kid, Peanuts, Bloom County, Calvin and Hobbes. They would have maybe a storyline that lasts a week, 2 weeks at most.
Yeah.
And then they'd be on to the next thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It
wasn't it's like speaking of which, wasn't like and I don't know much about this comic, like Little Abner around this time too? And weren't
Abner's
they doing
from the 30s?
30s? Okay, so it's like 10 years later.
Yeah. But Little Orphan Annie is from the 20s.
Okay.
And that also
still came after this.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
And what about
because it gets
Symbol Theater?
So Symbol Theater started in 19. So I think they started right around the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, that sounds right.
Popeye came around in 29.
Right.
It ran for 10 years.
I know, it's amazing. It ran for 10 years and
Little Orphan Annie
didn't quite click. That's the thing about these things. You never know when like without Skeezix, who knows? It's like these characters get introduced and then changes the whole course of history.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what Nemo, even Little Nemo had certain continuing aspects. Like he would have dreams that would continue from week to week, but you didn't really need to read them.
And isn't like, same time, what we're going to talk about next, isn't Ignatz, Crazy Cat and Ignatz right now too?
Yeah, 1913, something like that. Yeah, but not continuing stories the same way. Sometimes, but not frequently.
It's a double-edged sword, right? If it's continued, you're going to get people you're going to get some people who come back.
Yeah.
Who might not come back.
Yeah.
They come back just for that story. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's also like streaming television now. Like, there's lots of shows I'll watch a few of. I'm like, okay, I get it. I don't need to know how this story wraps up.
Right.
And now we're used to that, and that was never, well, rarely television's form when it was network TV, but it's a different consumption.
Well, I will tell you, the moment that I realized the adoption hearing was postponed past the issues that are covered in this book, I was very frustrated.
Yeah, this is in the second volume.
Yeah, it's funny how he gets you. It's like, oh, just let me know.
And they DQ, I think they put out 7 volumes, and then they put out a volume of all the comics pre-Skizix, which is basically just talking cars. And I don't think they're doing any more volumes. I think they basically said, okay, we put out this many, we're not going to do any more. And I remember, I think it's volume 5 was very hard to get because I kept looking like on book sites, and it was going for like $500, and I was like, why is this one volume going for $500? And it turns out there's a DVD included with it.
Oh.
Yeah, and I eventually was able to pick up volume 5. Someone was selling it on eBay without the DVD and only charged me like $30.
Talk about a cliffhanger.
Yeah. So I have no idea what the DVD was about.
I wonder what, I'm assuming, this would maybe a tough sell for now. Maybe this strip just seems too ancient, but it's really well done. I really enjoyed it. I'd read some of it, but I read a more concentrated section of it now. Also, if people are looking for volumes to get the Drawn and Quarterly anthologies that came out about 20 years ago now, volume 3 and volume 4 of Drawn and Quarterly, that's the name of the publication, they both include big chunks of the Sunday comics by Frank King. And the 3rd volume has a wonderful cover and a comic strip appreciation by Chris Ware that's in the style of
that's great.
the early Gasoline Alleys. So, we should mention, so the books are called Walt and Skizix so that you don't have to deal with the trademark of Gasoline Alley.
Yeah, I think there was actually a British action film like within the last 20 years called Gasoline Alley.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Funny. No relation.
No relation in the least.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going back to its origin with Car Talk. I would be interested if someone would just do a history of the automobile, as seen through this book, because it starts as a bit of a novelty.
Right.
And then how it overcomes, the country, and, the road trip to Yellowstone, I loved. And I loved how King wrote the name of the town that each page was supposed to be coming from.
Right.
On those. But
a good way to pull in readers.
Yeah.
Gasoline Alley's coming to your town. Make sure your newspaper's carrying it.
Well, apparently he was actually going on the road trip and drawing them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I assumed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a continuing theme through the volumes. They go on various different trips.
Mm-hmm.
But it surprised me, again, the history of the automobile, when they talk about their repair bills. It seems like a lot of money. He's got a $500 repair bill for his automobile. I mean, to me, in today's money, I don't want to pay a $500 repair bill on my car. So I can only imagine what Doc was complaining about.
Is Doc the cheapskate? One of them's the cheapskate. Is it Doc?
No,
maybe it's
I think it's Avery.
Avery.
Or Avery, I think.
Avery. It's Avery.
And of course, all those characters did pass away off screen, off comic, off panel. Yeah.
So yeah, $500 in March of 1921 is $8,381 today.
Wow.
For that matter, when they were talking about like $1.50 part, we're talking about a $25 part now.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that was actually something that struck me, is that as much as this plays as rural, lower class, all of these characters are at least relatively wealthy. You know, I forget what Walt's job actually is, isn't he?
I think his job is repairing cars.
No, I don't think it is. Second, because I came across it somewhere and was really, yeah, he ran a successful furniture company.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, but what era is that? Is that post these comics? I don't know when that takes over.
No.
I read somewhere he starts a company with the fella who moves in, who's the potential rival suitor.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned Phyllis Blossom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. Oh, I love how the strips I'm reading in the early 20s, Walt keeps saying, I'm a confirmed bachelor. I don't need a woman. And like he's just teasing us because we know he's going to get together with Phyllis.
Yeah.
He's continually reminding us, like, oh no, my life is perfect. And I just feel
I know
like
when I'm well off.
And then for a while they do the will they, won't they, the Sam and Diane whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you know where it's going.
Right. But it's like, just keep us on the edge of our seats waiting. I thought that was so charming in its its obviousness.
I think charming is a very good word for this strip.
Yeah, I was really taken by it. Again, it had been a while since I've read so much. I see that Dark Horse also put out a collection of the Sundays. I just don't know if this strip has traction with today's audience. And I mean, understandably, there's a lot of things to read now.
Dark Horse put out 2 volumes of the Sunday strips. They're big books, not as big as this Sunday Press book.
Right.
But they're still good. Yeah.
So
I picked up those 2 Dark Horse books around the same time I picked up from the same comic book store, the Dusty ones, until I got this huge Sunday Press book.
Yeah, I can't recommend those Sunday Press books enough to anybody. Those are just amazing.
They're a little hard to find. I remember years ago, this had to be a good 10 years ago. I was exhibiting at Ape in San Francisco, and Sunday Press was there, and they had the big books, and I think each of them were going for about $100 and $120 a pop, because I was interested in the little Nemo ones. They were way too big. I was like, they're gorgeous, but they're too big to get home. I can't fit it in my luggage. The Mile High Comics out here, there's only one left in Denver. They do have one of the Little Nemo Sunday Press books, but I think they're selling it for like $500. Yeah. Beautiful, but out of my price range.
And you need big shelves. I only have room for so many myself.
I store this Sunday Press book. It's actually behind, like next to my TV. There's the only place I can put these big books.
Yeah, they're not conducive to apartment living.
And thankfully, my wife lets me, decorate our living room with some comics.
Nice. Trying to think what else. So I guess the strip was passed along to Dick Moores, who was a longtime assistant. So there was it was his assistant, family business, not family, but he brought in someone to the company, and
I believe he did it from like 1919 to 1959. And then he passed on the Sunday comics like 8-9 years before, I think in 51. And then he retired and passed away in 1969. And then since then it's just been maybe 4 creators, maybe 5 have been doing it.
Yeah, I've got according to the wonderful Wikipedia, but they have citations, so I'm gonna assume that it's true. They're citing Alan Holt's American Newspaper Comics and Encyclopedia. Is Frank King on the daily from 1918 to 1969. Dick Moore's on the daily starting sometime in 1956, so he probably was a fill-in / assistant through.
Well, Frank King passed away in 69, right. So that might be incorrect. Because
yeah, it could be. Or no, Frank King.
King retired from the Daily in 1959, turning it over to Dick Moore's.
Okay, so then we've got Moore's through 86, and then Jim Scancarelli from 86 to present. With the Sundays, you have Bill Perry in there from April 29th, 1951 to August 17th, 1975, before Morse took it over for it looks like a year. And then Bob Zeish, 76 to 79. And then
Zinchi.
Where's the N?
There's an N right. Z S C H I E C H E. Zichi?
Zichi. And then Scancarelli took it over in 79. And apparently has been credited with it since 86. So yeah, there's a relatively small number of creators. It's like a total of 5.
I mean, this is none of the artist's fault, but this space of comics, as everyone complains, as you've all heard Bill Watterson complain, is just so tiny now.
Mm-hmm.
The strips are very compressed, and it's a little
I was thinking about that today, because almost all of my old web surfing for news has been replaced by newsletters. I get them in my email and I read them in my email. Sometimes I'll open something up if I need to. And I know I'm not alone in that. So I feel like we're at a time where somebody, if they wanted to, could work. Matt Borst did it for a while with the nib, with the daily email that went out. Obviously, he couldn't continue to make that work at the level that he wanted it to.
There are cartoonists who do that.
Yeah, no, there are definitely cartoonists that do it individually. I subscribe to a number of them. But I feel like you could, and this is where I've actually been looking, as we've been talking, at both Go Comics and Comics Kingdom, the two major. It looks like they've both picked up on, put together your personalized email,
right?
You'll get daily with the comics that you want to read. And then it's just all art there's just so much of it, and not just comics, but everything. So it's what percentage of the entertainment dollars will go your direction. But I kind of think that we might be more suited for daily comic strips right now than we have been in probably 20 years. Just because email is making that come back over social media and being more curated of what we read.
Yeah, someone, a computer guy told me, is like, social media, it's not where it's at anymore. And he's like, it is email newsletters.
Yeah.
is like build up and just blast out emails. I haven't done that yet, but that's what I'm told.
Well, I mean, I think it's always kind of a mixture of everything, whatever everything is in any given era, uh, newspapers that didn't have radio tie-ins probably didn't do as well as newspapers that did when radio became a thing. Radio that didn't have TV tie-ins didn't do as well as radio that did when TV became a thing, Um, TV, shows would have websites as a way to, media builds on itself. You have to be, you have to cross market, because there aren't a lot of people that are hardcore, I'm into this medium. There are a lot of people that are hardcore, I'm into this genre, or I'm into this subgenre, or I'm into this sort of news story, or this sort of history, or this sort of whatever. But then your job is to manage to reach them to say, hey, we do that in this form of media too. I mean, my wife was into true crime novels, and then she discovered true crime podcasts, and then she discovered true crime comics, and what ties it together is true crime, not oh, I mean, and because she loves true crime podcasts, she's like, well, I love comedy too, I wonder if there are good comedy podcasts. And because she loves true crime comics, she's like, well, I like young adult stuff too, I wonder if there's good young adult comics. So it's like getting you to the medium is the first thing. I don't know, I'm just babbling because that's what I do. Bob has his amused grin. He's heard this all before.
No, it's not that. I was just trying to it wasn't that at all. I was just trying to figure out it's certainly the case that it's good to have cross media material, but I mean, I'm gonna be a broken record here. Um, I love that this comic is one creator making
Oh
it. I mean,
yeah.
he had assistants. I mean, I think Dick Moore's might have been there from the 20s. I'm not really sure when he came on, but it's just like one person's worldview expressed daily
Oh, absolutely.
in 4 panels. It's like for me, I don't see how you can beat that. I don't know if the movies are any good. Maybe they're fine. I
Yeah,
can't
no
say I'm
idea.
that interested in them, but maybe they're
No.
good. I don't know. But he probably didn't have too much to do with them.
And
So
I was speaking purely from a marketing standpoint,
of
not
course.
from
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's important. I'm sure it was important to him to get those toys out there too.
right.
Uh,
We wanted Gasoline Alley to take off today. It'd be a mixture of, finding the things that were like it in any medium and then somehow putting it in front of the people who liked that stuff. Well, I love comics, and everybody keeps talking about them being dying. And while that's completely untrue, it always has me thinking about ways to make them healthier financially, particularly the creators, because many of the creators are friends of mine, and I want you guys to do okay and pay your rents and keep making work rather than going, God damn it, I've got this degree. I can go make more money doing God knows what. Yeah. I got nothing. It's a bad one.
that's all right. That's all right. It's your show.
I know, but sometimes this is why I like having co-hosts, because sometimes people have to go, hey, yeah, we get it. Let's get back to Frank King. So let's get back to Frank King.
Well, also, I find interesting, and this is of course in Little Orphan Annie and all of the strips of this day, that they were cultural phenomenon. And King, I like how he incorporates letters from readers,
Yeah,
into the strip, right? Walt is reading this letter from this person who was proposed to him. And it was like, well, how did this person know about Walt, right? In the world, right? The wall has dropped here. and when they do the contest to name skeezix, and various other things, people suggesting where they should go on their trip. It's very fun for me, and also takes you back to that time where people were writing in and really participating in the art.
Right. It's nice that Frank King was reading the comments section. But sure, yeah, I mean, any way to get the readers engaged again.
Sundays. I'm just looking, and
There's one I was just mentioning.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's beautiful.
One of my favorite type of storytelling, where most of it is static, but you have the different panels to show the passage of time, and the one, or in this case, two characters that are kind of going through, and then kind of a joke at the end.
So for our podcast listeners, Ted, do you want to tell them what we're looking at?
Oh yeah, we're looking at the Sunday, and you can find this at both lambic.net, the Comiclopedia under Frank King, and it's also shown there was a Comics Journal article, Growing Old in Gasoline Alley, 94 Years and Counting, that had it as one of the, and it's a day at the we talked briefly about the Sundays, and I haven't seen enough Sundays, and I wish that the Sunday books weren't so expensive, because they are really expensive. I was looking at prices on them while we were talking. But not only are they more whimsical and not out of the, but apparently it's where he did more of his stylistic stretches, where he would try different things, new things, whatever. And in this particular comic, we have a beach scene, but I mean, essentially you have one picture of the beach that's then split into panels, and Walt and Skeezix go through all of the panels, playing and sunning and whatnot, and it finishes with just a great joke at the end, where Walt's saying, "Try to float like this. Skeezix is easy," and Skeezix is, "I'd sink. I put all the wind I had into the water wands." But do you guys know Jesse Lonergan at all?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So he is, actually, I can pull one out right here. He is the king of doing one image in multiple panels. Only he doesn't even necessarily do the thing that goes between the panels. And one of the things I commented to him, that it really does, is it makes you linger. But by having this one big image, rather than looking at the image for just a second, you're looking at the image and scanning it panel by panel, even as you're looking at, so it's like each new panel is like a beat, even if the story isn't changing. And it's like a way of adding that I mean, in this case, the laziness of an afternoon at the beach. It's how it's an afternoon at the beach, not a few minutes at the beach. So I love that, and I also love, he did another one that they've got at Lambic where they're messing with a kaleidoscope. It's from the 30th of November in 1931. Or no, I guess they're messing with a compass. They're drawing things with a compass, but it's coming off kaleidoscopically. That's cool. So I wish I could see more of the Sunday strips, because it's such a, I mean, if you want, I doubt that this was like what was intended, but if you want to look for profound meaning, it's that almost all of us, even who live the most mundane existences, and that's what the daily strip is kind of about, is finding that beauty and that humor in the utterly ordinary.
Yep.
Can still get whimsical.
I will. Yeah, I'll say this again. That I'm looking up the prices. The drawn and quarterly anthologies I mentioned earlier.
That I already have in a cart.
So volume 3 and volume 4 of these both have healthy sections of the Gasoline Alley Sunday comics. And one thing I noticed in reading these is there's a couple from the 40s, and at that point, Skeezix is taking Walt's biological child through the neighborhood. So we already see a generational shift from Walt and Skeezix, who are wandering around, and the Walt is explaining how nature works, to then Skeezix taking the younger sibling around to see how the world works. And even, I guess it was maybe 15 years later, I was kind of struck by the passage of time in this comic. And again, it kind of tugged at me, and it's very beautiful. It's very subtle, but if you're attuned to it, it's a really fun read. Yeah, so I'll get choked up. So yeah, it's volume 3 and volume 4. There's many iterations of the Drawn and Quarterly anthology. So volume 3 came out in 2000, and I think volume 4 came out in 2001. So I also have comics in there, but you can buy it for the other stuff.
Or I've managed to find at a reasonable price.
Yeah, it was so great working with them on those. They're really wonderful books.
Be a great birthday present.
What else was there to say? I mean, it's 100 years of comics.
Yeah.
And more. So with the strips before Skeezix showed up, were those panels or were those full comic strips?
Those were
Four of them were panels.
It was panels and like 4-panel comics.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that they hadn't figured out the format yet? They were still playing with it?
They were playing with it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it was originally part of the what was it, the corner? What did they call the thing in the Tribune?
Oh, right. I saw that too. Yeah, there was a strip that it was a collaborative strip that he worked on.
Right.
And he would do one section of it.
I feel like there were I feel like a couple of major strips came out of that.
As someone who just loves the form of comics, one of the things that's exciting about reading these early works is just sort of seeing how they're figuring out as they go. Like, it's like, what is the format? What works? What can happen in a daily strip?
The rectangle is what it was in the Sunday Tribune.
So,
yeah, looking at the Walt before Skeezix book that Drawn and Quarterly put out, it's a lot more single panels, and they again were experimenting or trying to figure it out. They do have 4-panel strips, but they're like 2/2. But most of them seems to be single panel or kind of what would become the 4 panels that we all are familiar with.
Yeah, they had room for more dialogue in those days too.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming even the single panels were wordier than we could see in newspapers these days.
Yeah, I think I remember reading that, like, when Berkeley Breathed started Outland, he wanted to do the bigger pages, kind of like as a tribute to Crazy Cat and stuff like that. And same with Bill Watterson. And yet there just wasn't the room.
Yeah.
They just, even though they were like on the top of their game, the newspaper still wouldn't give them more space.
Yeah. Both of those.
Yeah.
Both of those folks really tried to push push the boundaries.
Yeah.
It's it's great that they tried to exert their clout and did to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Ted, you look intense.
Well, I get into various research when I'm, we'll talk about stuff and I'll start looking at all sorts of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that always strikes me, and it does, looking at Frank King's Sunday strips, just like it did looking at Roy Crane's Sunday strips. We haven't done Winsor McCay yet, but when I saw some of his stuff with Billy Ireland, I sat there going, there's so much of comic storytelling that we essentially had to relearn, because as it became profitable, we limited the ways storytelling could be done to be able to package it better. It became do the let's put together our strip has to be 4 panels, because then that can split in 2. If they need to put it in a square, it can, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be panels. It can't be, all sorts of stuff that Waterston would push against. He would make it hard to run Calvin and if you look through Calvin and Hobbes, sometimes you can see things that are like deliberately set up to make it so that you have to put this in the paper the way I want it to be in the paper, because you can't cut it.
Right.
I did a double middle panel.
Well, so with today's world, when I was doing the weekly strip for the Westward, they basically said you've got this much space,
right?
Like
no,
this many inches.
Again,
right? This many inches across, this many inches down, and I started playing because I was doing histories of various places around Denver. I basically did one big panel with all the text in it, but then we hit the problem of that would work fine for the newspaper, but they also had to think about online,
right?
And it wouldn't work online, and I had to start breaking things up weirdly to format for the online viewing, which more people were looking at these articles online than and picking up the newspaper.
Right.
Well, that's what Charles Schultz, when he went from 4 panels to 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was his saying, you're going to publish this the way I want it. I'm not doing it so you can do the blocks. And
yeah. And it took him 40 years or so to get there, that he did finally. I love problem solving when I'm making comics. It's like I like having a structure to play with, but I could also see if I was doing a daily, it would drive me crazy if I only had one puzzle to solve and I had to stick to that puzzle.
Right.
Well, it's like Robert Frost said with poetry. Sometimes the rhyme scheme, that added difficulty helps you find, the art. It actually helps.
Yep.
But every day.
There's Art Spiegelman quoted this in one of his books, I think, and I don't know who said it, but someone said, I'm not going to get it right. Oh, poetry without rhyme is like tennis without a net. It's like you need the dynamic,
right?
Or you need the structure.
If you had truly, and I think this is, in my opinion, this backs up that statement. If you have truly ridiculously talented tennis players, tennis without a net could be interesting.
Sure.
If you manage to get that crazy volley back and forth.
Sure.
And that with poetry, it's possible to have great poetry without.
Sure.
but yeah, the rhyme, the net that gives just enough structure to, I mean, and as an occasional poet, I fall in. I spent like my early years wanting to do free verse because blah 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 blah, high school bullshit. Um, and now I like form because it forces me to think about what words I use. I
It helps.
sometimes like, I like rhyming because it forces me to think about what words I use.
It's a
It
natural
forces me to
editor.
think about it forces me to think about what is this poem about?
Mhm.
What message do I want? I can't just ramble. I can't have too much in it. And it's one of the things I love about the comics form versus prose is you have to decide what you're doing. It's not as simple as, oh, I'm just going to keep spitting out words until I feel like I've got it in my point.
That's why you make all of your podcasts exactly 75 minutes so that they're tight
Nope,
and well
nope,
constructed and
no. My podcasts are like the opposite of that. Very little construction. This is not my art form. This is hanging out and talking about cool stuff with cool people. But I mean, if I was ever doing it professionally, I would have at least occasional ones that were like, I mean, I get the people that do heavily edited, because there is an art form to it, and it does make you decide what's important to say and what's not important to say. Um, that's overall not what I'm going for in this podcast.
I
But
know I'm teasing you. And
well, but
I like freeform comics too. I'm
but
not
but
even
but
saying
but
it's always true, but there's a
but actually, what I was going to say, Bob, is that I also sometimes think that it would be fun to do like half hour or 1 hour like specific documentary podcasts where it was much more thought out, where we did talk to various people and then clip it together rather than having a free form. Um, but Tyler and I both have day jobs.
well, that's the other thing.
um, by doing what we do here, we can hold that open as a possibility as we meet people that could be involved. Um, but I mean, I mean, talking about the Lost Peanuts episode, um, for what was essentially 45 minutes of audio, we did a lot of work to put together our Santos Sisters audio play. And I think it came out well. I really enjoyed doing it. Tyler did a great job editing it. I think it sounds great, but it was a lot of work to make all that happen.
Sure.
And I mean, I can't imagine doing that on a regular basis if it
I
wasn't my job.
I was really joking.
No, I know that
It
you're
wasn't
joking, but
taunting you.
it is. I mean, I don't know that I think that there's a comics podcast out there that takes that tack, because I don't know that there's anybody in comics podcasting that's in a position where they could. Um, and it might be interesting. I mean, every time, PBS decides to slum it and do a half hour or 1 hour documentary on a comics creator, it's always fun to see how they put it together. Um, so yeah, I could see it. I one of the things that I just fell off on, and I'll share my screen again for a second. Um, we brought up Bill Blackbeard earlier, and the Bill Blackbeard Man Saves Comics exhibit is online. They've got an online version of it. And that's where I was able to go. I mean, this one on the left is from 1895. Buck Rogers from 1936. Naughty Pete from 1913. Just all of the ways.
Crazy Quilt, is that
Crazy Quilt,
is that Frank King
1914.
as well? That's fantastic.
Gene Ahern.
Gene.
Yeah. But so, I mean, this is what I was talking about in terms of the amount that we essentially have had to relearn. You see this sort of page layouts, this sort of storytelling in comics today, and it's like, oh wow, how creative, blah blah blah. And then to see that, oh, they were doing that in the teens to
Yeah.
and then it just vanished from comics for 50 years. Essentially just entirely for I guess that's the end of it. Entirely for fiscal reasons.
Yeah.
It was harder to syndicate. It was harder to guarantee the size. But it's also one of those things that makes me laugh because in general, comics more than anything drove circulation for papers. The Tribune became king in Chicago because of their comics section. Hearst and Pulitzer fought rabidly over cartoonists when fighting for who was going to have control of the New York business. It's so funny to me that despite the fact that for the longest time they were like the primary reason why one person would buy this paper over another was the comic selection, that they still treated cartoonists as like wage earners.
Well, back in the day, they were well taken care of. And certainly George Harriman, I get the impression that Hearst loved him despite him not necessarily being the biggest seller to newspapers. So sometimes a fairy godfather will come through, even to cartoonists.
Well, and that's next.
Yes.
Next up is George Harriman. I came across a bigger hardcover of some of the strips when I was in, I think, Indianapolis, so I'll definitely be working with that. And there's lots available on Comixology and other places. So this is another one that if anybody comes across any story arc that they particularly love or period that they could particularly love, reach out to everybody and say, hey, take a look at these years. But I think Harriman, like Schultz, the way to go about it is we should kind of be self-driven in terms of what we read and come together.
There's a nice overview for those reading ahead, a Crazy Cat book that Abrams put out. I think it's still in print, but it's an overview of the entire strip, co-written by Patrick McDonnell, and it covers the whole strip. So if you're inclined or if it's available, but yeah, gosh, there's a lot at this point. There's many great Crazy Cat books out there.
Yeah, because was it Drawn and Quarterly did the
Fantagraphics?
Well, I know Fantagraphics did it. They're doing it now, but this is like 10 years ago.
Fantagraphics did the Chris Ware covers as well.
Okay, so those were that's what. Okay, yeah, I was about to say
yeah.
the ones Chris Ware designed. That was Fantagraphics as well. Okay,
yeah.
I've got a few of those volumes.
Yeah.
I will say that the for you guys, for anybody listening that might want to read along with us, the Crazy Cat, The Art of George Harriman by Patrick McDonnell from Abrams is quite inexpensive on A-Books right now. The $6.30 one is gone because I just bought it, but I think they had others in a similar price range.
There's many editions. I mean, it's a long-running strip. Like Frank King, he went for a long time.
Oh, wait. Well, no. My $6.30 one was the one with free shipping. There is still a $4.49 one with $3.99 in shipping.
Oh.
So you get it for like.
Are you getting ad rates for these?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I mean, one would think that one day I do something like that, but I think they want you to have more than 30 average listeners. I'm pretty certain that the listeners to any given show, except for Mom and John, hi Mom, hi John, are different. That we've got like probably 100 or so people that go, ooh, that looks like an interesting episode, or nah, I don't need 2 hours of that.
Oh, sure you do.
I could be wrong. I just know that it seems like we talked to lots of creators and a decent number of comic shop owners that recognize us and have listened to at least one episode or another. And I know that they've listened to it not because they say they've listened to it as much as they ask something related to something that we've said. So it's like you can't bullshit me when you ask me about something from like the 1 hour or 15 mark of an episode.
Right.
So yeah, anybody with any last words?
As always with all of these, as with Captain Easy, I'm just so happy to have been introduced and the impetus to actually delve into something I've heard about forever but never read. So it's really fun.
Yeah, likewise. It's just a great reason to look at these strips again.
I was going to say, just with all the insanity that the world is today, it's nice just to have some slice of life. Very nice, very sweet comic to read.
And they made it through World War II, so we'll make it through this.
Yeah.
Right.
Panels for Bob Sikoryak, Karl Christian Krumpholz, Sean Harklerode. This has been the Comic Strip Book Club, and we will see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22panelspodcast.